Abu Bakr, first Rashidun Caliph, Shah Yazdegerd III, king of the Sassanid Empire, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Rashidun general. This is the story of the Arab invasion of Persia. It is the year 633 AD. A vast and powerful empire stretches from the Indus River to the Mediterranean Sea. The Sassanid Empire, with its capital in Ctesiphon, stands as a beacon of culture, science, and military might. But on the horizon, a storm is brewing. A formidable Muslim army, led by the legendary Khalid ibn al-Walid, advances through the heart of Mesopotamia. As they near the Euphrates River, the man known as the Sword of Allah prepares for a decisive clash against a coalition of Persian and Roman forces. An Arab soldier from Khalid's vanguard later recounts the scene.
We moved with incredible speed, our spirits soaring and our faith unshakable. The Persian forces, though strong, were unprepared for the intensity of our attack. The battlefield echoed with the clash of swords and the cries of warriors. The Euphrates flowed red with the blood of our enemies, and their lines crumbled in chaos. Under Khalid's brilliant command, we achieved victories that seemed beyond reach. The world was forever changed.
The Arab invasion of Persia had just begun. This is the tale of a determined nation that dared to challenge a colossal superpower. Welcome to the Arab War against the Sassanid Empire.
This is where our journey begins, a journey back in time. From the dawn of civilization in Mesopotamia to the rise of glorious empires, from the halo of fabled personalities to the shadows of ruthless regimes. Witness the drama of epic battles and the moments when the world stood still. Events that didn't destroy us, but defined us. We combine cutting-edge technology and artificial intelligence to resurrect legendary historical towns and retell ancient love stories. Underpinned by powerful music, you'll feel like you're part of it. Welcome to Epic Histories, where each chapter brings the past alive.
At the dawn of the 7th century, the Middle East was dominated by two colossal empires, the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Empire. For centuries, the Romans and Persians had been locked in an unyielding conflict, ever since their borders first clashed in the 60s BC. The Roman Republic had evolved into the mighty Roman Empire, only to see its western half crumble under foreign invasions. This left the Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, to carry on its legacy. Meanwhile, the Parthian Empire had given way to the formidable Sassanid Empire. Despite these transformations, these two superpowers continued to be entangled in intense territorial disputes for centuries. These conflicts weren't always direct. The two empires frequently participated in proxy wars. During the 3rd century AD, two Arab tribal confederations from Yemen, the Ghassanids and the Lakhmids, became vassal states of the Eastern Roman Empire and the Sassanids, respectively. The tribes were instrumental in the Roman-Sassanid wars, serving as scouts, raiders, and light cavalry, while also defending against Arab tribal raids from the south. However, religious tensions between the monophysite Ghassanids and the Miaphysite Orthodox Byzantines weakened Roman support in the region. In 600 AD, Lakhmid king Al-Numan II converted to Christianity and sought independence. This was not received well by the Zoroastrian Shah Khosrow II, who decided to invade, turning the Lakhmid kingdom into a Sassanid province. Although the Sassanids maintained control, these events created divided allegiances among the Arab tribes and eroded the traditional buffer along the Sassanid border. A new chapter of conflict emerged in 570 AD. The Sassanid Empire set its sights on Yemen, a fertile part of the Arabian Peninsula, crucial for controlling trade routes to India and the Far East. Yemen was then under the control of Abyssinia, a Christian ally of the Byzantine Empire. Seizing the opportunity presented by a civil war in Abyssinia, the Sassanids launched an invasion and swiftly defeated the Abyssinians. Determined to revenge Yemen's defeat, Byzantine Emperor Justin II began supporting an Armenian rebellion against the Sassanids, sparking a series of fierce battles. The Byzantine forces triumphed over the Sassanids in several key engagements. The conflict reached a turning point when the new Byzantine Emperor Maurice intervened to help Khosrow II reclaim the Sassanid throne. This unexpected union led to a temporary truce between the two great empires. However, peace did not last long. Just 10 years later, a Roman centurion named Phocas marched on Constantinople. Emperor Maurice, realizing his position was untenable, attempted to flee but was eventually captured and executed alongside his 6 sons in November 602. Phocas' rise to power plunged Eastern Rome into a full-blown civil war. Seizing the opportunity, Khosrow II and his Sassanid army crossed the Euphrates River, launching a series of successful campaigns. They swiftly conquered Syria, Jordan, and Palestine from the Romans, capturing several key cities, including Antioch and Jerusalem. The fall of Jerusalem saw many Christian relics and artifacts taken as spoils of war back to Ctesiphon, including what was believed to be the true cross, the cross upon which Jesus Christ was crucified. By 619, the Sassanids had also taken Egypt and advanced deeply into Anatolia, reaching the gates of Constantinople. This marked the largest expansion of Sassanid territory in history. The Iranian ruler, Khosrow II, reaped the fruits of his numerous victories in abundance. The victory procession was led by 960 elephants, each adorned with chests filled with gold, silver, and precious jewels. Following them was a caravan of 12,000 camels and 8,000 horses that transported silks, spices, and exotic treasures from the distant corners of the Byzantine Empire. The Shah's palace was guarded by 6,000 soldiers, while 12,000 slaves were engaged in various administrative roles. Exotic silks and intricate tapestries sourced from the conquered lands draped the walls. The ceiling featured 1,000 golden balls designed to imitate the stars of the night sky. Khosrow's palace was also home to 3,000 concubines, some of the most beautiful girls in Asia, each selected for their beauty and talents. These concubines served not only to provide pleasure to the Shah, but also to entertain the king and his guests through music, dance, and poetry. In 610 CE, Heraclius, a Roman general, arrived with a fleet from Carthage and led a revolt against the unpopular emperor Phocas. Phocas was captured and subsequently executed. Heraclius was then crowned as emperor. Despite achieving victories in 2 battles against the Sassanids between 622 and 625, he was unable to stop the Sassanid advance. Khosrow II mobilized all men capable of fighting. In 626, Shahrbaraz, a Sassanid commander, besieged Constantinople with support from the Avars and Sclaveni from Europe. The Roman Empire was on the brink of destruction, however. The defenders of the capital remained resolute and prevailed. At this juncture, the Byzantine Empire seemed defeated. It had lost both its military strength and most precious provinces in Asia, notably Syria and Egypt. On the European side, the Avars had reached as far as Thrace. Constantinople was still reeling from the aftermath of the Justinian plague, which had decimated its population and subsequently impacted agricultural output. the capital experienced famine and looting due to a lack of essential supplies. At this critical moment, the tide of war turned. Emperor Heraclius, determined to reclaim lost territories, formed an alliance with Tong Yabgu Khan of the Western Turkic Khaganate, commonly referred to as the Khazars. A bold invasion was launched into the heart of the Sassanid Empire. In 627, Heraclius secured a significant victory against the Sassanids during the Battle of Nineveh. By 628, he was threatening the capital, Ctesiphon, and even managed to capture the Emperor's White Palace in Dastgird, just outside the city. This bold move led to the overthrow of Khosrow II by his own nobles. Khosrow's son, Kavad II, ascended to the throne and promptly signed a peace treaty with Heraclius. The Sassanids paid a heavy war indemnity, restored the True Cross to Jerusalem, and both exhausted empires reverted to their pre-war borders. The prolonged and bloody conflict left both powers on the brink of collapse, with drained treasuries, destroyed cities, and a severely depleted workforce. But the tragedy didn't end there. A devastating plague ravaged the western provinces of the Persian Empire, resulting in the death of half the population in present-day Iraq and decimating the residents of Ctesiphon. Amidst this chaos, Kavad II engaged in a violent purge, eliminating his brothers and numerous noble officials within the government. Finally, Kavad killed his own father, Khosrow II, the last of the great Persian kings. The Persian Empire, once a dominant force, descended into a brutal civil war. Meanwhile, to the south, the Arabian Peninsula underwent notable upheaval. This extensive area was home to a diverse array of religious practices, including traditional Arab paganism, Zoroastrianism, Judaism, and Christianity. The Sassanids controlled the province of Mazun and the eastern part of Yemen, while the central and northern deserts were under the influence of nomadic Bedouin Arabs. The Quraysh tribe dominated the prosperous merchant city-states of Mecca and Yathrib. The cities served as both religious centers and vibrant economic hubs, engaging in trade of spices and other goods with Aksum, the Romans, and the Sassanids. In 570, a boy named Muhammad was born in Mecca. According to later sources, Muhammad began receiving divine revelations around the age of 40. He soon started spreading the message of a new religion, Islam, in his hometown. However, the Meccans did not welcome this new faith. Increasing persecution prompted Muhammad and his followers, the Muslims, to emigrate to Yathrib, later known as Medina, in 622. Military conflicts emerged between the Muslims and Mecca. By 630, Muhammad led an army of 10,000 men to conquer Mecca. Following his victory, Muhammad sent emissaries to neighboring states including Byzantium and the Sassanid Empire, urging their leaders to accept Islam and submit to the one God, Allah. The Sassanid Shah Kavad insulted the Muslim envoy, while the envoy sent to the Romans was killed in Ghassanid territory. A small Muslim army launched a retaliatory attack, which was subsequently defeated by the Ghassanids and Romans in September 629 during the Battle of Mu'tah. Despite this setback, Muhammad persisted in his conquests throughout Arabia. By 631, most of the Arabian Peninsula was under Muslim control. Muhammad passed away a year later. Abu Bakr, a prominent ally of Muhammad, became the first caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. In 628, the Sassanid Empire was thrown into chaos. Kavad II secured the throne by ruthlessly eliminating his brothers, but his reign was short-lived, ending with his death from the plague just months later. The throne passed to his young son, Ardashir III, while actual power remained with the Parthian vizier, Mahad-Arjushnas. This power shift led to significant unrest among the Persian nobles, who allied with the formidable general Shahbaraz. In 630, Shahbaraz stormed the capital, resulting in the overthrow and death of Ardashir and Mahad-Arjushnas. as Shahryar's ascended to the throne. The empire was now engulfed in civil war, with 7 different rulers ascending to the throne within a span of just over 2 years. Among them were Boran and Azarmidokht, the first queens in Sassanid history. However, they were swiftly overthrown or killed. The long struggle for power ended in 632 with the ascension of Yazdegerd III, the 8-year-old grandson of Khosrow II. Yet the Sassanid Empire lay in ruins, its lands divided and vulnerable to Turkic raiders from the Caucasus and Central Asia. Additionally, the governors of Yemen and Mazun declared their independence, making them easy prey for the growing Rashidun Caliphate. In June 632, Abu Bakr, the first caliph, dispatched a portion of his army led by Usama ibn Zayd to conduct a raid on the Ghassanids. The death of Muhammad and the army's departure led many newly conquered Arab tribes to believe the Caliphate was weak. By July 632, the entire Arabian Peninsula, except for Mecca and Medina, rebelled against Abu Bakr in what became known as the Ridda Wars, or Wars of Apostasy. Many rebel leaders even declared themselves prophets. The situation was especially dire near Medina. Abu Bakr, demonstrating his military prowess, swiftly marched to Medina and defeated the rebels in early August. Instead of consolidating his forces, he divided his army into smaller contingents, launching assaults on the rebels throughout the peninsula. By March 633, all resistance was crushed, and the caliph's rule was restored. Although it's unclear how many men the Caliphate lost during the Ridda Wars, the conflict provided invaluable experience for its troops and saw the rise of a formidable new general, Khalid ibn Walid. While the Ridda Wars were raging, Muthanna bin Haritha, leader of the Bani Bakr tribe, orchestrated daring raids into Sassanid territories in southern Iraq. The ongoing Sassanid civil war left their frontier vulnerable, prompting Muthanna to inform Abu Bakr. Seizing the opportunity, Abu Bakr decided to invade. He assigned Muthanna to fight the Persians and ordered his main commander, Khalid ibn al-Walid, to assist. In March 633, Khalid led an army of 10,000 soldiers towards the Sasanian border. Along the way, several Arab tribal chiefs, including Muthanna, joined him, swelling his forces to a staggering 18,000 soldiers. Upon reaching Sassanid territory, Khalid wrote a letter to the governor of Dast Maysan, Hormozd.
From Khalid ibn al-Walid to the border guards of Persia, peace be upon the guided. Praise be to Allah who has scattered your servants, plundered your property, and frustrated your plot. Those who pray as we pray, turn to our Qibla, and eat the meat of the animals we slaughter are Muslims. They are subject to the same rights and obligations as we are. When my letter reaches you, send me hostages and accept my protection. Otherwise, I swear by Allah, I have come with an army that loves death as much as you love life and wine.
Hormozd refused to surrender and instead sent a plea for reinforcements to Shah Yazdegerd III. Hormozd quickly assembled an army of 20,000 soldiers and marched towards Kazima, where he expected to confront the Arabs. This was exactly what Khalid had hoped for. Khalid ibn al-Walid was aware he would face the heavily armed infantry and cavalry of the Persians. Despite their civil wars, the Sassanid army remained formidable, with superior armor and weaponry. The Caliph's forces had one key advantage: mobility. Khalid planned to use this to wear down the Sassanid army. 2 roads led from the Arabian Peninsula to Uballa, passing through Kazima and Hufair. Expecting Khalid to take the shorter route, Hormozd moved towards Kazima. Upon arrival, he learned that the Arabs were approaching Hufair. The Sassanid army hastily advanced there, only to find that the Arabs had circled back through the desert to Kazima. When Hormozd finally reached Kazima, he found a well-rested Arab army waiting for him. The engagement that followed is commonly known as the Battle of the Chains. though the name might be a misinterpretation. Muslim sources suggest that the Sassanid infantry was linked by chains to stop them from fleeing, though this appears unlikely. The Persian word silsila probably referred to a single line of troops. Khalid bin Walid was determined not to let Hormozd's troops rest. He forced the Sassanids to form up west of Kazima after a grueling march. Their formation was traditional: infantry in the center, cavalry on the wings, with Qubaz and Anushirvan commanding the flanks. Khalid's army mirrored this setup, but stayed hidden in the desert hills, adding to the Sassanids' exhaustion as they waited in the scorching sun. Hours later, Khalid's troops appeared on the hills, halting just short of Hormozd's forces. Hormozd, in a bold move, dismounted and challenged Khalid to a duel. Such duels were common that time in the region, a way for commanders to prove their valor. Khalid accepted. As they fought to a standstill, Hormozd's personal guards suddenly attacked Khalid. His Arab general Bakr bin Amr intervened, helping Khalid defeat them and kill Hormozd. Khalid ordered his troops forward. The armies clashed fiercely. On the wings, neither side could gain an advantage. In the center, the Muslim infantry launched several charges, each time clashing and retreating without much effect. However, the well-rested Muslim troops eventually broke through the disciplined Sassanid line in several places during one of their charges. With their leader dead, the Sassanid army lost cohesion and panicked. Qubaz and Anushirvan began retreating with their cavalry. Instead of pursuing them, the Muslim horsemen encircled the Sassanid center. Soon the battle was over. While exact casualties are unknown, it's thought that half the Sassanid army was lost that day, while Khalid's losses were minimal. As a symbol of victory, Khalid sent a fifth of the booty and a captured elephant to Abu Bakr. Meanwhile, upon receiving Hormozd's letter in late March, Shah Yazdegerd sent an army under Karins to reinforce his governor. Karins, leading 15,000 to 25,000 men, headed south towards Uballa. Along the way, he met the remnants of Hormozd's army, about 10,000 troops led by Qubaz and Anushirvan. Hearing about the Battle of the Chains terrified Karins's men. When Karins spotted a mobile force led by Muthanna close, he halted his advance, fearing a flank attack by Muthanna's light cavalry. Karins chose to sacrifice Uballa and remained by the river to prevent Khalid from crossing the Tigris and moving west towards the strategic city of Al-Hira. Meanwhile, Khalid received word from Muthanna about a new Sassanid army moving south. With no other route available, Khalid prepared for what would become the Battle of the River in the third week of April. The Sassanids, numbering between 25,000 and 50,000, faced Khalid's 18,000-strong force, bolstered by local Arab recruits. Both armies had similar formations: infantry in the center, cavalry on the wings. Qubaz and Anushirvan, survivors of the previous battle, commanded the Sassanid flanks. The Sassanid infantry was deeper. Karins, confident in his troops, didn't attempt to outflank Khalid, instead relying on his reserves. As was customary, Karins called for a duel. Khalid was ready to accept, but his Arab warrior Makil bin Asha charged forward to face the Sassanid commander. In a fierce duel, Makil defeated Karins. To restore morale, Qubaz and Anushirvan demanded duels but were swiftly killed in the ensuing duel by Arab warriors Adi bin Hatim and Asim. With their top commanders killed, the Sassanid army was left without a leader and extremely vulnerable. Khalid ordered his entire army forward. Despite having lost their top commanders, the Sassanids initially pushed back against the Caliphate forces. However, without leadership, their lines became disorganized. Khalid took advantage of the moment and launched a counterattack, further disrupting the enemy formation. The Sassanid attempted to flee while the front continued fighting, but without support, the front lines were soon massacred. The swift and lightly equipped Muslim troops easily caught up with the fleeing Sassanids, driving many into the river. Countless Sassanid soldiers were killed by the sword or drowned, with only a few making it across the river. By the end of the battle, the Shah's army had lost between 15,000 and 30,000 troops, while Khalid's casualties numbered hundreds. Following his victory at the Battle of the River, Khalid occupied Uballa, yet he refrained from pushing further into central Iraq for several reasons. First, he needed to set up a new administration to collect the jizya tax and avoid overextending his supply lines. Additionally, Khalid preferred fighting on the desert's edge, leveraging the terrain to outmaneuver his enemies. In Ctesiphon, the Persian ruler Yazdegerd III seethed with fury over his recent defeat. In response, he ordered two armies from the north and east to march towards the capital. As the first army, commanded by Andarzaga, reached its destination, it was swiftly rerouted to Walaja, a crucial stronghold nestled between Uballa and Al-Hira. With the remnants of Karinz's forces bolstering their ranks, Andarzaga's army surged to a formidable strength of 25,000 to 30,000 troops. The second army, commanded by top General Bahman, was to reinforce Andarzaga if the Muslims decided to advance towards Al-Hira. Bahman's 20,000-strong force was stationed along the Euphrates, halfway between Uballa and Walaja. Khalid, alerted by his scouts of the enemy movements, knew he couldn't let the two Sassanid forces unite. On his way to Walaja, Khalid was reinforced by Arab tribes drawn to the promise of reduced taxes under Muslim rule. His force, now 15,000, 20,000 strong, reached Andarzaga well before Bahman in May. Even though Andarzaga would have had enough room to withdraw across the Euphrates and wait for Bahman, he was confident enough in his troops to keep his position. For almost a day, the two armies stayed in their encampments, refraining from initiating combat. Khalid, realizing that a frontal attack would be futile, devised a cunning plan. At night, his cavalry of 4,000 horsemen withdrew from the camp and covertly took up positions behind the western ridge. On the following day, as both armies took their positions, the Sassanid leader noticed the Muslim army seemed smaller, comprising only of foot soldiers. This was in stark contrary to reports of the critical role Khalid's cavalry played in previous battles. Hence, he remained in his defensive position. The battlefield near Walaja was a flat plain between two low ridges, approximately a kilometer apart. The left flank of the Persian army was protected by a ridge and a branch of the Euphrates, making a rear attack impossible. Khalid then ordered his entire army to advance. Leading from the front, he charged into the enemy. Initially, the two lines fought to a standstill, but as the Sassanids rotated their tired front line with fresh troops, they began to push the Muslim infantry back. Slowly but surely, the Sassanids advanced, pushing the Arabs dangerously close to the ridge, which would have made any retreat impossible. At this critical moment, Khalid gave the signal. The cavalry, hidden in the desert the previous night, appeared on the eastern ridge behind the Sassanid army. The light Arab horsemen charged into the Sassanid lines, while Khalid's infantry extended their front, enveloping Andarzaga's wings. The Sassanid advance had left their rear undefended. Under the cavalry's onslaught, the Persian horsemen faltered and fled. Minutes later, the Battle of Walaja was over. Andarzaga was killed, and his army was obliterated, leaving merely 5,000 survivors to retreat from the battlefield. Khalid faced approximately 3,000 casualties. Many Christian Arabs who escaped gathered near Ulleis, turning to their northern neighbors and Shah Yazdegerd for assistance. Yazdegerd sent Bahman, yet for reasons unclear, Bahman transferred command to Jaban. Jaban then allied with the northern Christian Arabs at Ulleis. Khalid, aware of the Persian movements, decided to strike before they could receive reinforcements. Facing a numerically superior enemy, he planned a surprise attack at noon. In a coverted maneuver, the Arabs approached towards the enemy camp and launched a multi-directional offensive, catching the Persians off guard. Low morale from their recent defeat at Al-Walaja led many Persian soldiers to flee. Those who chose to resist faced a brutal massacre. The spoils from the nearby town of Amgishya was rich and distributed among Khalid's mujahideen. Abu Bakr, upon learning of the victory, praised Khalid, addressing the people of Quraysh.
O people of Quraysh, your lion attacked the lion, he tore and tore his flesh. Mothers are incapable of giving birth to one like Khalid.
By late May, Khalid approached Al-Hira, the initial goal of his campaign. Al-Hira, celebrated for its beauty and rich cultural heritage, was a center of architectural splendor, featuring impressive palaces and castles from the Lakhmid dynasty. Initially, the local Sassanid garrison and their Arab allies mounted a resistance that lasted several days. However, this defiance ultimately gave way to negotiations. Khalid offered to spare the population in return for the jizya tax, leading the locals to surrender. In July 633, the cities of Ain al-Tamur and Al-Anbar fell under Arab Caliphate control, marking the first Arab attack across the Euphrates River. Meanwhile, on the Arabian Peninsula, Iyaz bin Ghanem was battling the remnants of the Ridda Wars. Initially tasked by Abu Bakr to support the conquest of Iraq, Iyaz encountered formidable resistance from polytheistic Arab tribes that halted his advance. Unable to defeat them, he sought Khalid's help. Khalid responded in a letter.
From Khalid to Iyaz, I am coming to you. Wait a little. Mounts will come to you, mounts that carry lions. Troops with deadly poisons will come to you, one after the other.
Upon his arrival in Dumat al-Jandal, Khalid devastated the polytheist army, capturing and executing its commanders. Women and children were taken captive. The absence of the Muslim army gave the Sassanids time to regroup, concentrating 5 armies between Muzzayah and Husayd. When Khalid bin Walid learned of this, he ordered Ka'ka ibn Amr and the garrisons at Al-Hira, Anbar and Ain al-Tamur to delay the Sassanid forces and prevent them from uniting. In late September, Khalid returned to Al-Hira with reinforcements, inflicting minor defeats on the Sassanids, who retreated to Muzzayah. Realizing the danger of the Sassanids uniting their armies, Khalid devised a bold plan. He split his army into 3 corps, using the desert to bypass enemy positions undetected. It was a risky maneuver, as all 3 corps had to not only evade detection, but also arrive at the decided location simultaneously. However, everything worked as planned. One night in early November, Khalid's corps simultaneously converged on the Sassanid camp at Muzzayah. In a coordinated assault, 20,000 Arab troops launched a surprise attack on the Sassanid army, still in slumber. In the depths of night, horsemen surged forth from every direction, transforming the darkness into a harrowing ordeal for the unsuspecting Sassanids. The Caliphate's forces scored an easy victory, killing over 10,000 Sassanid warriors, with only a handful managing to escape. Remarkably, Khalid repeated this strategy 2 more times, crushing the remaining forces in the area. The Muslims suffered minimal losses, while the Christian Arabs lost over half their army. Khalid's mobility and the Sassanids' inability to consolidate their forces secured the region between Muzzayah and Al-Hira for the Caliphate. In the conquered cities, Persians were taken captive, facing enslavement, while the local Arab population, though subject to the jizya tax, maintained a level of autonomy and even freedom to worship. Attacking Ctesiphon still presented significant risks, as it would have severely strained supply lines. Instead, Khalid shifted his focus to Firaz, the last significant Sassanid stronghold in the area. Located on the border of the Sassanid and Byzantine empires, the Byzantines forged an alliance with the Sassanids, mobilizing their forces north of the Euphrates River. Khalid reached Firaz in December with 20,000 troops and secured the crossing on the south side. Despite their alliance and local Arab support, The combined forces, led by Sassanid commander Hormozd Jadhuyi, numbered only between 15,000 and 25,000. For 5 to 6 weeks, the armies faced off, neither side able to safely cross the river. In the third week of January, Khalid feigned a retreat, baiting the allies into crossing the river and forming up against the Muslims. Both sides had similar formations: infantry in the center, cavalry on the wings. The allies, confident in their superior equipment, advanced steadily, gradually forcing Khalid's forces to retreat. Khalid then ordered his second-rank cavalry to move to the far left. As the Roman Sassanid army advanced, the Muslims retreated further. Khalid's detached force seized the bridge, launching a surprise attack on the allies from the rear. This maneuver caused Hormozd Jadhuyi's army to lose cohesion, fearing they were surrounded by a larger Muslim force. Simultaneously, Khalid's main force launched a counterattack. The Allied army, now in disarray, began to rout towards the northeast. Some managed to swim across the river, but more than half were killed. Khalid experienced minimal losses, suffering only a few hundred casualties. And so, under the command of Khalid bin Walid, all lands west of the Euphrates River fell under Muslim control. Khalid outmaneuvered his Persian opponents at every turn, conquering most of Mesopotamia within just 1 year. His ambitions now focused on the ultimate prize, the city of Ctesiphon. However, that plan was not to be. In the early stages of the Sassanid campaign, Abu Bakr assigned 4 corps to invade Palestine and the areas around the Sea of Galilee, the River Jordan, and the Dead Sea. The Byzantine Empire, weakened by a quarter century of conflict with the Sassanids, was now dangerously vulnerable to attacks. Though the Muslim forces achieved initial success, they were still too weak for assaults on large urban settlements. The Caliph, recognizing the need for additional troops and Khalid bin Walid's expertise in warfare, ordered his undefeated commander to aid his fellow Muslims in their struggle against Rome. In 633, Khalid and a small contingent of his army prepared to move to Syria. With Iraq now under Muslim control, Khalid's next mission was to face the Romans in the Levant. The ancient cities of Damascus and Jerusalem, proud bastions of Roman power, now faced the looming threat of the young Islamic Caliphate. Get ready for an exciting journey into the heart of the Byzantine Empire. Witness monumental sieges, strategic brilliance, and the unwavering faith that would reshape the course of history. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might be interested. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more historical content and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Feel free to leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below, and click on one of these videos to continue the adventure.